The Incas were an extensive empire that inhabited the western coast of South America. They were the rulers of the snow-capped Andes, the dry Atacama Desert, and the agricultural coastal plains on the shore of the Pacific Ocean. According to their creation myth, Ayar Manco, then known as Manco Capac, became the first emperor of the Kingdom of Cusco after he drove out the original inhabitants. Centuries later, Pachacuti set his sights on expanding the same minuscule Kingdom of Cusco into a mighty empire. A significant accomplishment by Pachacuti was the construction of Machu Picchu, the iconic city that is nestled on the ridge of a nearly 8,000-foot tall mountain. Pachacuti's methods of expansion were made up of a simple checklist. He began by sending spies to learn of the political administration and status of the kingdom. Next, he offered gifts and luxuries so that the rulers would join the kingdom. Lastly, he would either peacefully incorporate them if accepted, or militarily conquer their adversaries if not accepted. If the latter was implemented, their ruler would be executed and their children would learn of the Incan administration in their capital Cusco, and then be sent to rule over their homelands. The Inca Empire expanded rapidly under Tupac Inca. This led to confrontations with its main rival along the Pacific coast of South America, the Kingdom of Timor. Tupac Inca defeated their rivals and performed a similar ritual with their nobility, with the uncooperative ruler's son later ruling over the area that Timor once held. Huayna Capac inherited a powerful kingdom at the height of its power, and under his rule the empire added small territories in modern-day Ecuador. Now that we have discussed the rise of the Inca until its zenith, we will discuss their culture and traditions. The Inca were naturally adapted to the higher altitude climate in which they lived, though they also inhabited lower-lying coastal areas. Although this image may simply look like a necklace or rope, it was the Inca writing system that was actually a series of knots that would communicate the necessary ideas. This was called quipu, and it has intrigued historians and linguists alike. Although the Inca did have a spoken language, Quechua, quipu was their main way of keeping track of records. The Inca were able to administer such a large territory using their system of suyu, or provinces. The four suyu met at the capital city, Cusco, which was administered similar to a modern federal district, as Washington, D.C. is in the modern-day United States. The Inca had their distinct religion, which unfortunately encouraged the practice of human sacrifice. The Inca road system was used to transport goods and messages throughout its vast territory, and they did not use the wheel at all. Rather, porters and llamas would be the main means of transportation in this empire. Of cultural interest is the Paracas skulls, whose elongated heads are often mistaken by enthusiasts as aliens, but these were actually developed through a long process known as artificial cranial deformation, and was seen as a mark of nobility. Now, we proceed to talk about the decline of the Inca. A succession conflict ensued between the sons of Huayna Capac, named Atahualpa and Huascar, leaving the empire in a vulnerable state. Meanwhile, the Spanish, who were looking to expand further into South America, sent explorer Francisco Pizarro to help them conquer this unknown empire. The encounters began near modern-day Guayaquil, Ecuador, where the Spanish displayed their vast technological advantage over the Inca. While the Spanish carried a cannon and wielded longswords, the Inca were protected only by alpaca fleece armor and with stone and bronze weapons. With superior military strength, the Spanish were able to decimate the Inca. They were further assisted by diseases such as smallpox, to which the natives had no exposure to. The Inca finally fell when the Spanish deceived Atahualpa, the last Inca emperor. He had offered a large sum of gold in return for his release from captivity. The Spanish accepted the gold, but proceeded to execute the emperor, ending the Inca kingdom. It's not quite over yet. Similar to the Hittites, the Inca had a slight resistance that survived longer than the empire itself. Mangu Inca was a ruler of the region around the former Inca territory established by conquistador Francisco Pizarro. Pizarro had made the locals of Cusco accept Mangu Inca as their ruler and left the city, leaving his brothers in charge. They mistreated Mangu Inca, and so he was motivated to rebel against them. Mangu Inca, on the pretext of finding a statue, left his imprisonment, accompanied only by 2 Spaniards. Mangu Inca easily escaped and gathered an army to attempt to reconquer Cusco. This ultimately failed, and the Incas were forced to retreat further into the hostile jungle environment to their east. They chose Ollantay Tambo as their holdout and withstood a Spanish attack to the fortress. After searching for a discreet enough place, the Inca finally settled on the city of Vilcabamba, also known as the Lost City of the Incas. After gaining small amounts of land, Spanish forces located them and executed Mangu Inca. His loyal soldiers, in turn, killed the invaders, and Mangu Inca's son Sairi Tupac ascended to the throne. The Neo-Inca maintained their hidden location in the jungles of the Vilcabamba Valley until the Spanish discovered them and began their attack. The Inca fought hard, but it was in vain, as they were forced to retreat further into the jungle, where eventually the Spanish discovered and killed their last ruler. The Inca were quick to rise and fall, but they had a resistance that stretched on for decades. Considering the great military tactics that allowed them to survive so much longer, we will dive into some alternate history. On my channel, I will now be ending each video with a brief alternate history segment relating to the question, what if this empire survived to the modern day, or at least later than it really did? For this, we can assume that either the Neo-Inca or the Inca survived. For now, we will say that the Inca at its peak survived. We can assume that the Inca would retain their territories in modern-day Peru, Bolivia, and Ecuador, so that was the backbone of the empire. Chile and Argentina, considering the circumstances of a harsh Spanish attack and the low prevalence of Quechua people in those countries, will still be lost in this alternate scenario. Peru and Bolivia still do share a large amount of Inca culture, because in both countries over 20% of the population remains of Quechua or Aymara ethnicity, which were the two dominant Incan ethnic groups, with the number being around 7% in Ecuador. As for what role it would play on the world stage, dominant would be a key word. Rival the size and importance of Brazil, but yet still retain their unique traits, such as Quipu communication. However, there would be an introduction of written script as well, as Quechuan languages are written in the Roman alphabet today. Cars and other vital modern inventions will likely be introduced there as well, for their unique architectural traits with having trapezoidal doors and tilted roofs would likely survive, as many of the people will continue to live in the mountains. As for the population, the entire country would likely have around 56.5 million people, evening out with the number of lost Spanish settlers and the number of Incas that would not have otherwise died. Coastal cities would also gradually become populated as tourist destinations and trade hubs, and so a string of coastal cities in Cusco would be the main population centers, with the system of suyus likely surviving as well. Cusco would be the capital, with its administration being similar to what it was on a larger scale as the city expands. The Inca were a truly unique civilization, with a fierce belief to survive, and to some extent they did, as there are as many as 10 million native Andean people in South America today. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to support this channel, and comment below about any ideas for future videos or anything else.